Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 53rd episode of the Online Tennis Podcast. It's me, Jack, and today I am joined by Damien. How you doing, Damien?
Hey, I'm fine. I'm actually in Braunschweig right now for the Challenger, but I've been watching a lot of Wimbledon on my phone in the stands. Some days it was easier, some days it was tougher because of the sun. But
Mm-hmm.
today I actually got to see a fair bit of the semi, and still, I managed to keep up. So hopefully we're gonna be able to discuss the men's final with
Mm-hmm.
ease.
Yeah, it sounds like Damien's match that he got to see was probably better than the Wimbledon semi-final. To be honest, we're not talking about the semi-final per se. It might come up a little bit, but today we're gonna preview the final between Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios. Very exciting, obviously, for various reasons. Where would you like to start, Damien? I've got places to start, but I'm willing to hear what you want to speak about first. Any thoughts and feelings?
Honestly, this is one of the most exciting matchups in tennis,
Mm-hmm.
if you may say so. I mean, a lot of people will probably be really angry at Kyrgios right now following the court case. But I've always been able to like separate off court stuff and on court stuff pretty well. Like
Mm-hmm.
at least while watching, not really think about who the guy is, who's playing, but just trying to watch the tennis. And this has
Yeah.
been a matchup that we've been longing for, because obviously they only got to play twice. Both of these matches happened in like what a month at best. A couple
Yeah,
of times in
27, start
January
of 2017.
2017. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was basically like 20 days between them, and we always wanted to see more. Also because Kyrgios was bringing this up a lot, right? That he has 2-0 head-to-head against Djokovic,
Yeah,
and
he
because
did, wasn't, didn't
he
stay quiet about it, that's true.
yeah, and he got him at probably one of the worst times for Djokovic, at least since that's, I don't know, 2010, 2011, when his prime started, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great that we're finally getting a third one between them.
Mm-hmm.
And also obviously the circumstances couldn't be better, really. We're finally going to see if that 2-0 means anything, or if Kyrgios
Mm-hmm.
was just talking crap over the years.
Yeah, I mean you always want to know if Kyrgios is just talking crap. I mean that's what Wimbledon finals are for sure. It's still quite surreal. It hasn't really sunk in for me yet that we're actually seeing Kyrgios in a Wimbledon final. Yes, it is very weird, and obviously under unfortunate circumstances. A shame that he got through having not played Nadal. Having heard what Kyrgios has said, he actually sounds like he would have been better off. Obviously, if he might not have got through, but he would have been better off having had the experience. He talked a lot about competitive juices in his press conference. Said he needs some sort of way to sort of make that happen artificially. I guess he's going to get straight on the practice court and stuff. Obviously, it's up to us to believe what we want. From kind of having followed Kyrgios's career from the start, I would be inclined to believe him in this instance. Obviously, we don't always know what Nick says is true or false. He could be lying a lot of the time, but I think he's being honest about this one. I think he would have been in better stead had he had that semi final under his belt than going in pretty cold, to be honest, because the tournament hasn't been that harsh for him. In fact, I don't really think he's been challenged that badly at all. Tsitsipas didn't break his serve once in his match. Nakashima looked pretty flat, to be honest, and kind of got away with, again, Nakashima isn't the best returner of serve in the game, and he was able to sort of roll when he needed to, basically, and step it up when he needed to. Garin, again, obviously one of the most bizarre quarterfinals we've had at Wimbledon for a while. Obviously got to the fourth round last year, but I still think Garin obviously got through by the skin of his teeth against Imanor. That would have been a better match, probably. Yeah, I'm inclined to say that Kyrgios hasn't really been tested. Job as well, of course, in the first round. That was actually a good match, but yeah. What do you think, Damien?
I think with how many question marks we had regarding Kyrgios's fitness, especially as he hasn't really been playing a packed schedule like the other guys on tour. In recent months, of course, during the grass season, but even in Mallorca, he withdrew after the first one versus Jera, and I wasn't really sure if his body was going to hold up for 7 matches, best of 5. So that's why I think the not playing the semifinal is actually pretty great for him, because in the Nakashima match, at least, we were sort of perhaps starting to see that it might be It might be close for Kyrgios to start fading away a bit physically.
Yeah.
The Garin one, we don't really know what would have happened in the latter sets, but I had this idea that in order to win Wimbledon by presumably back then still beating Djokovic and Nadal, he would have to beat Garin pretty handily, and well, he did that. And not playing the final is pretty cool, but I absolutely agree that he hasn't really been tested by someone who's someone of Djokovic's class. I don't know who else in the draw besides Nadal is really there. Probably no one. But
Yeah.
it is a bit of an argument, of course, and mentality is going to be probably the most important thing in this one. Obviously, tennis skills matter as well, but a lot really depends on how whether Kyrgios is even able to deliver or not.
Yeah.
I also watch these pressers, and like he seems like for him this is the most important day of his life, and that's rightfully so. I mean, that's literally what it is, and this can both work in his favor, but also lead to his demise. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
from what we've seen so far, it seems likely to me that, but it's just straight up guesswork, obviously. But it seems likely to me that he will actually perform, because he just kind of seems like a man on a mission, and
Yeah.
perhaps all these years of saying that he's got a 2-0 head-to-head against Djokovic. I mean, he really has something to prove here.
Yeah.
He really had. I guess he's already proven something, sort of, because as you said, no one was really expecting him here. He was extremely fortunate because it's not only Nadal, it's Berrettini, it's Bautista Agut. I remember when we talked before Wimbledon. I can't remember if you were at the if your opinion was the same. But I remember saying that I don't really trust him to get through Tsitsipas and Bautista Agut in a row. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
thought that RBA was going to be in the quarterfinals, not Kyrgios. Obviously, he withdrew after the opening round. So
Mm-hmm.
Kyrgios was, well, basically he three of his biggest rivals were eliminated, and he didn't even have to play Fritz.
Yeah.
If he had to play Fritz, then he would have had a pretty real proper test before the final. But he didn't even do that. So he actually comes a bit undercooked, but definitely well
Yeah.
rested. Yeah.
I'm inclined to say it's a factor for sure that he's undercooked. And on the nerves, like the quote, I will give you exactly what he said, was so many thoughts in my head about a Wimbledon final. I've never been here before. That's where Djokovic has the advantage from the get go. He can draw from experience. He knows the emotions he's going to be feeling. I don't know that. I don't know anything like that. It was all running through my head, every little thought, and I just slept really badly. I again, this could all be malarkey. That's the thing. Like, he does just say stuff sometimes. I don't know how much of it is true for sure, but if that is true, I don't see why he wouldn't be nervous on the day. And to be honest, I don't think he has been that nervous ever in his career. That's kind of my take on it. I don't know. Maybe the Australian Open final, but even then, I don't know. It was kind of just a big laugh, wasn't it, with Kokkinakis? Like, I don't think he's been this nervous before, would be my personal feeling, and I think it could actually affect how he plays. If we were to believe that they were both playing pretty well, Damien, I do just have a sort of technical matchup. So the actual tennis,
Mm-hmm.
because if they're both playing full flow, people might be interested to know how their games sort of bounce off one another. Obviously, first thing, as we were saying, hasn't played anybody like Novak. Certainly the returns, he's going to have to play a lot more balls, obviously. But he's got ways of hurting Novak from the back of the court. It's not like it's going to be one-way traffic for sure. Doesn't tend to get roped into any cross-court stalemates is one of the biggest things for me. He can find ways out of sort of backhands cross-court. He changes direction more often than most players, I would say. He's pretty fluid at that. It's not really a tactic that's going to work. It's not something Novak relies on, but just saying it's not something that'll work against Kyrgios. He has power off his forehand that Cam doesn't, for example. So his backhand, I would say, is quite similar to Cam's, pretty flat, but he's got more explosiveness on the forehand. Obviously, you've got the orientation of your hands flipped, so the flat backhand doesn't have quite the same effectiveness as Cam's. But that firepower off the forehand will actually be dangerous for Novak, and it probably will force him to play well from the get go. That's the next thing I want to talk about. Djokovic not playing well from the get go, because I'm pretty sure we've just seen Sinner, Cam Norrie, arguably Tim Van Rijthoven as well, where Djokovic hasn't been at his best, and then he's come out and started serving pretty much impeccably. I think Cam won 10 return points in the last 3 sets in that match, and in the first set he won 13. Sinner as well didn't come close to breaking Djokovic after those first 2 sets. Djokovic can serve just as reliably as Kyrgios if he needs to, whether it takes a set, whether it takes 2 sets. I just think eventually Djokovic will be at a level where Kyrgios probably can't touch him on serve. That doesn't mean he will get beaten, but it does mean that Djokovic has a very, very big advantage that I think people might look over. What do you think, Damien?
Yeah, I mean it's the most dangerous version of Djokovic when the best returner in the world is actually one of the best servers in the world as well, and we've seen that happen a lot in recent years. I actually saw today someone describing the serving performance against Norrie as vintage Djokovic. This is actually sort
Yeah,
of not true. I mean, this serve has
yeah,
appeared recently, but maybe not
mm-hmm.
super recently. Of course, we're talking about guys
Yeah.
who,
Four or
yeah,
5 years or so.
something like this. Yeah, this has been the probably definitely the best serving period of Djokovic's career. We've arrived at a point where it's no longer overlooked. Like it's one of these things that so often get mentioned as underestimated, as overlooked, that they're no longer that really. Like everyone is already
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
familiar with the fact that Djokovic is also well, perhaps not a top 5 server in the world, but when he's on, when he's hitting his spots, certainly up there with the very best. And this is a
I'd
problem.
certainly, I would say stats reflect that as well,
Of
Damien. Just
course,
to add
yeah.
to that, they are top 5. Yeah,
Yeah, and this is a problem for for Kyrgios, that's for sure, because he's not the best returner, and he's going to, as you said, be have to play a lot of balls on his own delivery, and whether he'll have the patience for that, whether he will be willing to grind it out against Djokovic. I mean, because this is a match. As I said, because this is the most important day of his life, unless the pressure like really gets to him, I tend to believe that he will be trying everything literally,
yeah,
and this is also obviously we're talking about a very talented guy who perhaps can't really touch the peak level of Djokovic, but yeah, we haven't seen it yet. There's been finals before where Djokovic played, well, basically mediocre stuff. 2019 Wimbledon comes to mind. He still won it, of course, but for most of the final, he wasn't really at his best. He wasn't even
yeah,
serving that well in that one, if I remember correctly. So there is a chance for Kyrgios, and as you said, you don't really have to break him to win. You can, as simple as it sounds, you can win 6 games on your serve and get to a tiebreak. It is a possibility. So there's
mm-hmm.
definitely a lot of chances for Kyrgyz there, but it remains to be seen whether all the returns that Novak is going to make, all the extra shots that Kyrgios is going to take, this is really frustrating for someone with his style. And yeah, I definitely like the flat backhand in this matchup. On grass, especially, even though it might not be as dangerous as Norrie, I think we shouldn't even compare Kyrgios to Norrie, because honestly, Cam,
Yeah,
as much as he's obviously going to try, he's an absolute hard worker and a professional, to an incredible degree. But he just never really had a chance in this one. I mean, I know he won a set, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, even if Djokovic lost that match, I'd be saying the same, because he just never had anything to hurt him with. It was just
yeah.
always about Djokovic getting his. Uh, I don't wanna say the word together, and
No, that's fair. That's fair.
yeah, and,
Yeah,
and and Kyrgios actually has a level that can hurt Djokovic even when Novak is playing quite well. So I do think this will be pretty close actually, and but that really depends on mentality here, and especially as you said with the sort of disadvantage that we have with experience. It's a fun comparison to the women's final, where both are first time finalists. We've seen some things like this go absolutely crazy, like the Team Zverev one at the U.S. Open. Team barely moving, and Zverev still not able to put him away. Both guys
Yeah.
absolutely just, well, team maybe wasn't choking because he actually played it well mentally. He just couldn't do it physically anymore. But so I expect craziness from Makina Shaber. Here there's one guy who is going to perform, but at the same time, the beginnings that he had against Sinner and Nori, I'm not really sure what to think of them, whether that's pressure as well, because we have to remember that Djokovic, like, this is his most important tournament of the year right now. It was Wimbledon and Roland Garros, but obviously he lost there. And as right now with the rules that exist right now, he's not going to be allowed into the States. That this is also the most important match of the year for him. Obviously, he's won 20 of these events, and for Kyrgios, it's completely different because it's the match of his life. But still, uh, perhaps we're also seeing some effects of that pressure. There was a phenomenal quote from Djokovic after the Sinner match, that how was it that Sinner came with nothing to lose, and from 2-0 up in sets, Sinner suddenly had everything to lose, and that
Yeah.
he felt it on
Yeah.
that he felt it on the court. And perhaps we're gonna see that again. Perhaps we saw it to an extent even today in the Nori match, that Kyrgios might play at the beginning as if he had nothing to lose, because you always have something to lose. And at first he might play like that, but the question is what happens if he, I don't know, goes up a set, if he goes into a tiebreak in the opener. Yeah, it's a really exciting final, but it also has some big potential to turn out as a complete bummer. It really does.
Yeah. It does. I know. I think a combination. I'm going to ask you for a prediction in a second, David. But I think a prediction. Sorry, I think a combination of Djokovic's ability to lock in, as we've seen throughout the tournament, reliably. Nerves, though it might not be a massive factor. I'm still going to count it in. And, well, I'm taking into account the fact the technical matchup actually isn't bad for Kyrgios. I think I would say Djokovic in 5 sets. What do you think, Damien?
It's really hard to like this. It's really hard for me to just take my expectations and what I want, from, like, separate them. It's
Mm-hmm.
I just really wish it was competitive. I I
Yeah,
I, I really, even though Kyrgios is obviously a very questionable character, I'd love to see a phenomenal match between them, because, as I said, we really were longing for something like this, for another meeting between the two. Kyrgios has played Federer, Nadal, and Murray a lot more, and all of
yeah.
these matches, perhaps besides the Murray rivalry, were phenomenal. Murray kind of
Mm-hmm.
slapped him a lot, and I'm really
Yeah,
excited for this one, and I really
bizarre.
want to see it being competitive. So I really don't think it ends in three either. I went with for a prediction for for last word in tennis. I went with Kyrgios in five, but honestly,
Yeah,
do I
but
actually trust it? I mean, it's purely for fun, really. I would
yeah.
love to see it. I wish we get a five-set final, but I think there's, yeah, as I said before, I think there's a big chance that Djokovic wins it pretty easily. But if it's close, then I actually like Nick's chances to win it. So yeah, let's just, I'm not going to suddenly change my mind or anything. I'm also going to say
Okay.
Kyrgios in five, but
Carry us in
let's
five.
be honest, it's not. It's not a real prediction. It's more what I maybe not want to want, or maybe not what I want,
You're
because I
manifesting it,
Hmm?
Damien. Yeah. You're manifesting it. You're making
Yeah,
it
I mean,
happen. You're
I don't
willing it
really
to
care
happen.
who wins. I just want a good final, and I think if it's
Yeah.
Kyrgios in five, then it's certainly going to be amazing. If it's Djokovic in five, it's
Hmm.
probably going to be amazing, because we
Yeah.
might get, I don't know, one, or Kyrgios going up a set or two, or two sets to one, and then get another Nori Djokovic or Sinner Djokovic, where the last sets were just absolutely pointless.
Yeah. That's my feeling. Well, that's exactly my feeling. I think that's what will happen eventually. I'm so excited for it, Damien. It's going to be really good. Jabeur Rubikina Saturday, Djokovic Kyrgios Sunday. please catch it. We'll be doing some podcasts afterwards. Thank you for listening this far through. You can catch Damien's work at Damian Kust on Twitter, my work on the line _Jack on Twitter. Catch you next time on the On the Line Tennis Podcast. Cheers.